Zardoz. Zardoz is a 1974 science fiction film written, produced, and directed by John Boorman and starring Sean Connery and Charlotte Rampling. It depicts a post-apocalyptic world where barbarians, the Brutals, worship the stone idol Zardoz while growing food for a hidden elite, the Eternals. Brutal Zed becomes curious about Zardoz, and his curiosity forces a showdown between the two sides. Boorman decided to make the film after his failed attempt to dramatize The Lord of the Rings. Burt Reynolds was originally cast in the role, but subsequently turned it down due to illness. Sean Connery, in an attempt to reinvent himself after playing James Bond, signed on. It was shot entirely in County Wicklow, in the east of Ireland. Plot: in the year 2293, the human population is divided into the immortals Eternals and the mortal Brutals. The Brutals live in an irradiated wasteland, growing food for the Eternals, who live separately in the Vortex, leading a luxurious but aimless existence on the grounds of a rural estate. The brutal exterminators kill and terrorize other Brutals on the orders of Zardoz, a flying stone head who provides them with weapons in exchange for the food they collect. Zed, a brutal exterminator, stows away aboard Zardoz during a voyage, temporarily killing its Eternal operator creator Arthur Frayne. Upon arriving at the Vortex, Zed encounters two Eternals, Consuela and her assistant May. Overcoming Zed with psychic powers, they make him a prisoner and menial laborer within their community. Consuela wants to destroy Zed so that the Resistance cannot use him to start a revolution. Others, led by May and the subversive Eternal Friend, insist on keeping him alive for further study, while secretly plotting to overthrow the government and end humanity's suffering. Over time, Zed discovers the nature of the Vortex. The Eternals are overseen and protected from death by the Tabernacle, an artificial intelligence. Given their unlimited lifespans, the Eternals have become bored and corrupted, and are descending into madness. The futility of procreation has rendered men impotent, and meditation has replaced sleep. Others fall into catatonia, forming the social stratum the Eternals have dubbed the apathetics. The Eternals spend their days stewarding humanity's vast knowledge, baking special bread from grain deliveries, and engaging in communal meditation rituals. To give life more meaning, and in a failed attempt to prevent humanity from becoming permanently catatonic, the Vortex developed complex social rules whose violators are punished by artificial aging. The most extreme violators are condemned to permanent old age. Eternals who have managed to die, usually by accident, are reborn in another healthy, synthetically reproduced body that is identical to the one they lost. Zed is less brutal and far more intelligent than the Eternals believe. Genetic analysis reveals that he is the end result of lengthy eugenics experiments masterminded by Arthur Frayne, who controlled the Outlands with the Terminators. Zardoz's goal was to create a Superman who would penetrate the Vortex and save humanity from its hopelessly stagnant status quo. In the ruins of the old world, Arthur Frayne encouraged Zed to learn to read and led him to the book The Wonderful Wizard of Ounce. Understanding the origin of the name Zardoz, Wizard of Ounce, led Zed to become truly aware that Frayne was a manipulator. Enraged by this realization, Zed resolved to investigate the mystery of Zardoz further. As Zed divines the nature of the Vortex and its problems, the Eternals use it to fight their internal disputes. Led by Consuela, the Eternals decide to kill Zed and Age Friend. Zed escapes and, with the help of May and Friend, absorbs all of the Eternals' knowledge, including that of the Vortex's origin, in order to destroy the Tabernacle. While absorbing their knowledge, Zed impregnates May and some of her followers while he transforms from a Terminator out for revenge. Zed shuts down the Tabernacle, thus disabling the force fields and perception filters surrounding the Vortex. This helps the Terminators invade the Vortex and kill most of the Eternals, who welcome death as a release from their dull existence. May and several of her followers escape the massacre and head off to give birth to their offspring as enlightened but mortal beings among the brutals. Consuela, habiendos enamorado de Z, da a luz dentro de los restos de la cabeza de piedra. El bebé madura medida que sus padres envejecen. Cuando el joven deja a sus padres, estos siguen envejeciendo y eventualmente mueren. No cuida nada en el espacio excepto huelas de manos pintadas en la pared y el revólver de Z. Comments. The film was a failure at its premiere. With a budget of between $1.5 and $2 million, it was only able to recover its investment plus $0.8 million in sales after its premiere. The critics were unanimous as well as the audience. They did not like the film and it was bad. Decades later, at least some critics vindicated the film, giving positive reviews. In my opinion, I liked it from the first time I saw it, and I have only seen it twice so far. My opinion is that the film has extenuating circumstances. The first is that the script did not have the quality it deserved because the director did not give himself enough time to polish it. Added to this, the producers did not want to film it, until in a certain way they pressured 20th Century Fox and it accepted, but with one condition, and it is the second extenuating circumstance, the budget. Fox agreed, but as Homer said very reluctantly, and the budget was not enough. Maybe for this reason the director had to hire his ex-wife for the costumes, in addition to the fact that he did not hire scriptwriters, or at least better scriptwriters like in Star Wars, and that is immediately noticeable when the film begins. On the other hand, regarding the script in particular, it is noticeable that the dialogues are focused on metaphysics, which in my opinion was in keeping with the times. We are talking about the 70s, which was honestly the time when intellectuality was most presumed, but it was the time when the most nonsense was said, and that was precisely what the critics detected. The dialogues were intellectualoid and really not understandable. This was a serious mistake in my opinion because the film was classified by the director himself as science fiction, and there are almost no scientific dialogues, and I noticed that throughout the film, where I was anxiously waiting for the scientific part to start that would explain the essence of the plot, and when I thought this would never happen, Sean started with the explanation, which is paradoxical. Those who were supposed to explain were the Eternals, but no, it was Sean's character. Who did it, and what do you think? He did it very well. Sean's dialogue explaining the AI and the world in which the Eternals lived was extremely good, so I asked myself, why didn't they include more of these dialogues? I mean, I understand that it was the 70s and it was not the end of those people to talk a lot about science instead of metaphysics, but at least a few more dialogues. The other thing that seemed right to me was that the one who explained it was Sean himself, that is to say that instead of having it explained by an Eternal, who were all wisdom, it was explained by a barbarian who just a few days ago believed that a floating head was a god. But it makes sense when you assimilate that Zed was a highly evolved mutant. For that reason he was much better than the Eternals both physically and mentally. May realized this and mentions it, in addition to realizing that for the same reason he was dangerous for them, because once Zed became aware of his power, most likely he would destroy them. That is to say, once Zed had the knowledge that they had, and with his aggressive convictions, he would use everything to end that world. And this is reasonable, because it is not said in the film, but it has the theme of genetics immersed in it. So while the barbarians continued to evolve generationally as nature dictates, the Eternals remained stagnant, because they were not really eternal, they died, but an AI reproduced them in a new body, and inserted the consciences, and so it seemed to be the same, but in reality they were clones. Therefore, neither their bodies nor their minds evolved, while Zed, for example, was evolved and therefore superior. This also reflects inherited and not acquired knowledge, the havoc they can cause. As Dr. Malcolm said, they acquire knowledge that did not cost them and the result is a catastrophe. It has always been this way throughout the history of humanity. Thus it is also confirmed that intellectuality tends to collapse. For many critics of yesteryear who did not understand the foundation of that civilization, just imagine that since children they were raised and educated in a bubble, where they were left in the care of an AI, and they are cyclically reincarnated with the same consciousness, that they do not know what sex is, because men are sterile as well as impotent, where sleep is suppressed. How could this have caused imperceptible problems? But there they are, something is wrong, but you do not know what it is, and that is why they are amazed to see Zed sleep, and to see him have sex, among other things. Then I think it would make sense that they were already fed up with that civilization, and it was better to perish along with civilization. So in my opinion, the metaphysics spoiled the movie, in a sense, because the movie is good. Even in the 70s the direction and production were appreciated as well as the effects, so a little less metaphysics and more scientific dialogues would have made 60% of the 100 that this movie needed. The other thing was the costumes. The truth is they are very rustic. I think that the Eternals were a very bad choice to dress them that way to symbolize wisdom, the opposite case with the barbarians. I think it was good, because in shortages, you either walked around in loincloths or in rags, precisely because of the lack of resources. Contrary to what the critics said at the time that the hunter's wardrobe was terrible, I think it is appropriate. Austerity was required in addition to the hunters being agile, and that the clothing did not limit them, and that means the less clothing the more agile. That's all for today. Goodbye.